honestly. Some people are so shallow to think. I mean, I would go and see that film because it's a beautifully crafted work of art.
On its artistic merits, yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed, indeed.
Artistic hot pants.
So you'd be averting your gaze at certain moments then?
I wouldn't be deriving any particular enjoyment
Ruth
from
would be
that.
like that. That's what would be happening.
Ruth in hot pants, there's another vision to behold. Anyway, you two, what have you got sports-wise?
That's a whole other show. Right, OK, few would have predicted that Sunderland were going to be the big spenders on transfer deadline day in the Premier League, but they were. The Wearside club signing...
When you say Kevin Peterson was angry, how angry was he? I'm trying to find this Twitter message.
It was... Well, he posted it, and then within about 3 or 4 minutes, it was deleted because there was a 4-letter word in there. That
it was X-rated?
It was, yeah, X-rated.
OK, a bit like Gemma Arterton's hot pants.
Yeah.
Which, oddly enough, a lot of people would want to see you three in. But, however, Charlotte...
Blimey, no, they wouldn't.
What have you got?
Lots of people talking about Blair's book and whether they'll be buying it or not. Ruth Kay says, will definitely not buy. Not interested. None of it is new. Rob Terrace says, I wouldn't buy it even if I was paid millions to. It's just more propaganda for Blair. Dawn Elkin says, I won't be buying the book, but as soon as Eamon Holmes publishes his memoirs, I'll be at the front of the queue.
Been there,
it'll be
sold
a very
out.
short queue anyway.
They're in the British Museum now.
honest.
Can't get it anymore. Well, you can.
Bargain bucket somewhere.
Yes. Bargain bucket everywhere. Anyway, that's the best-selling autobiography, Eamon Holmes, This Is My Life. I'll get you personal copies. Isabel, tell me about that weather out there.
More sun. It was lovely yesterday. Wasn't it gorgeous? A gorgeous day yesterday. Did you think so?
It's beautiful. I fell asleep in a park.
Did you? Yeah, just a little bit of fair weather, cumulus, beautiful day. And today again, lovely. A little bit different for the north and west though, with more cloud this morning.
Uncle doing his duty there and queuing up to, well, not queuing up, he was the queue to get the book there. But you know, when they sign these books, a signed book is a sold book. You can't return that. So if you sign, you go to the warehouse and you sign your books in advance, they're all regarded as sales. Oh. You wouldn't know, not having written your own autobiography.
Is that how you sold some books then, is it?
I signed a lot.
You made sure you signed.
My wrist nearly fell off. What else is happening news-wise? What have you got for us?
Well, it's an update on the situation in Iraq, and the US combat mission is over. It lasted over 7 years. It cost more than 4,400 American lives. The end was officially announced by President Obama, who said his country had paid a huge price to put Iraq's future in its people's hands. Our US correspondent Greg Milan reports from Washington.
Everybody have a seat.
I bet you the engine wasn't the only thing that surged when people saw that.
Must have been terrifying. Absolutely.
Outside,
I don't like flying, and that would
put me
off.
There'd have been a big queue to the loo, I would have thought. The papers dominated. Matthew Taylor was a former advisor to Tony Blair when he was Prime Minister. Charlotte's taking your advice on all of this morning. What have you got?
Well, Matthew Doyle reckons it's a must-read. He said he went from man of the people to the most complex politician in recent years. Bill in Islington, though, says just wait until Gordon Brown publishes his book. What is it they say about revenge being a dish best eaten cold? So that will be an interesting one.
Best served cold from Star Trek.
OK, well, I'm quoting Bill in Islington, and that's what he says, so...
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Excellent stuff. Sport coming your way right after the break. What have you got, Sarah Jane?
Well, I'll tell you about the decision that made Kevin Peterson vent his anger on the internet. We'll also...
OK, getting reaction to all of this this morning. What are folks saying, Charlotte?
Has split opinion this morning, actually. Bal Sagu says a must-read as he shaped the politics of the country over the last decade. But Michael Jeffrey says Blair's book is a catalogue of excuses. He and Brown held the 2 highest offices in state and allowed their personal egos for power to become more important than governing our country. OK, keep those coming in. It's at Sky Charlotte, at Eamon Holmes, news@sky.com. This is Matthew Syed. We're going to be talking cricket, and we're going to be talking the questioning of the 4 suspects in the Pakistani cricket team, which will happen tomorrow after this rundown from Charlotte. What else have you got? We've got news on Iraq, and Barack Obama's announced the end of the US combat mission in the country. 7 years after the launch of the war, the president stopped short of declaring victory, but he told Americans it is time to turn the page.
We have sent our young...
Passengers on a flight from San Francisco to Australia survived a mid-air scare after one of the plane's engines apparently burst into flames.
I don't know if this is good. Okay, so it seems to be a little bit more now.
A passenger returning from his honeymoon in the United States filmed these pictures on his mobile phone shortly after takeoff, and you can see one of the engines there shooting out sparks. It's a process known as engine surge. Well, the engine in question had to be shut down before they could return to the United States. A quick emergency landing, though, and no one was injured.
You would be scared. You would be scared
terrifying.
stiff. Or surged. whatever happens there. Matthew Sayed from the Times with me now. Gordon Brown, are you sharpening your pencil now? Are you willing to get the boot back in here? What do you think?
I think the temptation for most of us would be to do what you suggest, and Gordon Brown could have a pop back, if you like. But I don't actually think it's in Gordon Brown's character to do that publicly. The way that he's conducted himself against Tony Blair over the years has actually been to do it privately and to use other people as his instruments. I'd be very surprised if Gordon Brown can now indulge in this. Let's face it, Tony Blair was the bigger animal. He was the longer staying Prime Minister, far more successful. He had every right finally to tell it as it was, as Steve says, as we actually knew. Yeah. But to get a guy actually saying boldly and clearly that there was deviousness and devilishness at the heart of his chancellor.
How will this shape how people think of him, how they will remember him? Because, I mean, particularly there's the war legacy in all of this, where there's no apology, but there is this admission that he wept tears.
I hope that it will allow Tony Blair's memory to be far stronger than perhaps some people would want it to be. In that, I think there's a danger that Tony Blair's legacy could be written down as the Iraq War. And I think that hopefully the book will explain to people that he was about far, far more than that. I think there's an honesty in the book as well, which I'm glad, which is his confession that he made mistakes, that Labour made mistakes, that they failed to modernise public service, they spent too much money without having reform, which was absolutely vital and which is what they promised us when I was at the Sun that they would do and they didn't do. I think it's good that he's been honest about that. But importantly, I think that his enemies will relish the stuff about the war that will continue to make them think that he is a warmonger, and they will continue to hate him.
Steve, final comment, and just briefly from you, do you think this rehabilitates him in any way?
Well, I think over time there will be a fairer assessment of his leadership, but that will also include, I think, criticisms that won't be made today. For example, I can't, by the end, tell the difference in his assessment with that, say, of David Cameron. So what is the difference between him and the modern Conservative leadership? There's no point a Labour leader being an echo of the modern Conservative leadership. But I think over Iraq, over time, in the short term, this won't change anything, but over time, I think at least a recognition of some of the dilemmas he faced in making that judgment will be more clearly understood.
Steve, appreciate that. Thank you very much indeed for your take on that. Not at all. George, thank you very much indeed. Folk at home have been having their say, Charlotte.
They have, yeah. Ben in Bristol says he would be interested to read the book, but he can't bring himself to part with the money because of who wrote it. And Kevin Chamberlain says, Blair book? Nah, he says, does it have suspense, backstabbing, war, a whodunit? And then he said, oh, hang on a minute. So it has, it's got everything.
It's got everything. And we have another dramatic piece of footage coming in here. This is from the David Letterman show, and this is the actor Michael Douglas speaking for the first time about his throat cancer. Nice to see. Seems a really nice guy, Michael Douglas, and the older he gets, the more he looks like his dad, doesn't he? Yeah, well, good luck to him in that battle. Sports headline, Sarah Jane.
Thanks, Amy. Yep, Tottenham fans have got their fingers crossed at the moment that the deadline day signing of Dutch midfielder Rafael van der Vaart went through in time. The deal for the Real Madrid player is...
And here we are, the first day of September and a bit of an Indian summer.
Well, it's nice, isn't it? High pressure, sunny, another beautiful day. Not everywhere, though, but even though the north will be cloudy today, it'll improve tomorrow.
Isn't it just typical that weather gets better when all the kids are back at school? There they go. If you're going to school today, what can we say but hard luck? Seems like yesterday. Up next, the live desk with Colin Brazier. Have yourselves a good Wednesday.